Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. It's an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, as we, a bunch of virtual friends, gather around the virtual water cooler and talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news and all that sorts of good stuff. And I got to go to a little event last night called the Avengers Endgame premiere. We'll talk about that. The first reviews and reactions are out. We're going to talk about that in just a minute as well. But first, I want to introduce somebody who's joining me here, actually in my studio today for a little bit of a change. Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett is here. Robert, how you doing?
John, it's just great to be here, but I think I'm just as excited about everybody as everyone else is to hear what you have to say.
Well,
that's why I had to come here.
It's just not just me. It's what we're going to hear about what a lot of people had to say about Endgame, and then you and I, sir, we're going to go over and watch Endgame this afternoon after we're done this show. So you're going to get to go see Endgame yourself this afternoon. I'm going to go and sit down and watch it for my second screening in a bit. And we've got a lot of that stuff to talk about, but we got a few things to talk about off the top first, starting with a couple of trailers that came out this morning. Two significant trailers dropped this morning. And we're going to start off by talking about this one for Gemini Man. And where did Rob disappear to? Rob disappeared. Hold on a second. Let me get Rob back into this picture here because he's gone. Why did you disappear out of the picture, Rob? You're always causing problems, dude.
I know.
You're always causing problems.
I'm not even near a keyboard today, and I'm disappearing.
Yeah, you just figure out a way to mess everything up, man.
I know.
All the time. It's just you. Well, actually, no, this one was me. But anyway, let's talk about this new trailer that launched for Godzilla. The brand new trailer for Godzilla has come out. It's, again, is kind of the standard operating procedure right now for a lot of upcoming movies. Each trailer is really just a repeat of a lot of the other footage we already saw, just maybe edited together in a slightly different way with a few frames or a few seconds of new footage. Now, they put out the CinemaCon trailer a week or two ago. Amazing. Just amazing. They put out this trailer. Now, I'll tell you what, this trailer, not the same impact as the last one, but still really quite good. I thought this one was really good, just maybe not as good as the last one. And it seems like more and more they set up really what the whole movie's about. So they give us now, they've been hinting at it. This trailer say, okay, guys, here's what the movie is about. We got the Titans waking up. There's at least 17 of them. They seem to be overthrowing the Earth. We need to find one that can actually stand up to them. We're going to turn to Godzilla, and it's going to be Godzilla versus Ghidorah because those are the two alphas, and we'll see how it turns out. That's the basic setup of the movie. They gave it to us in this, and I thought it was presented really well. Rob, I think at this point, the way they've marketed this movie makes me feel like this is going to be the biggest box office hit out of this universe so far, from the first Godzilla movie, the King Kong movie, now this one. They've marketed this one beautifully. What did you think about this trailer?
I loved it. I mean, I've liked all the trailers. I love, once again, we have the use of Somewhere Over the Rainbow, the music. Yeah. And I thought the biggest jaw dropper was what you just mentioned. There are 17 Titans. Yeah. Now, we've been hearing about Ghidorah, we've been hearing about Mothra and Rodan and Godzilla, but 17? Does that mean we're going to get like Gigan and Megalon? I mean, who are we going to get? We can't get Gamera because Gamera's from a different studio. But this just looked to be like it's everything I would want from a giant kaiju movie. The only thing missing are the Pacific Rim Jaegers to fight back. But that's coming because it's legendary. No, I don't know. But it looked good to me. I mean, I am deliriously excited for this movie.
Yeah, I think it looks really good too. And again, a little bit of a step down from the previous trailer, but I don't know how you would have topped that previous trailer. Yeah. Showing King Ghidorah coming up out of the ice and all. I don't know how you top that one. So this was a good one too. All right. Well, guys, what did you think about the new Godzilla trailer? Jump down in the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. Now, Rob, another trailer, as we move on to this next topic, dropped this morning. But this one isn't the final trailer like it was for Godzilla. This is the first trailer for the upcoming Will Smith film, Gemini Man. Now, we've known for a while that the basic idea is Will Smith was an assassin, hitman, whatever, who's now being hunted by a younger version of himself. Now, what they did lay out, now I thought there might have been a little bit of time travel involved like there was for Looper. Turns out this is a cloning issue, that the agency that Will Smith worked for, I guess, cloned him. So this clone is now a much younger version of him, whatever. He didn't know about it. The clone didn't know about it. I thought the trailer was pretty good. It didn't blow my socks off, but I thought it was intriguing. What did you think about it?
Well, I saw a clip Ong Lee introduced a clip from this film at CinemaCon, and they showed it. I guess he shot it in high frame rate again,
right?
Like he did for Billy Pilgrim's Halftime Walk.
Yep.
I say Billy Pilgrim. I don't think it's Billy Pilgrim, but that was from Slaughterhouse-5. But this movie, the premise looks interesting, but I'm always dubious. I don't know if people really understand cloning, because just because you clone someone, it doesn't mean they're going to be exactly the same kind of person. They've got the same genetic material, but that doesn't mean they have the same training. Apparently, they've had to put Will Smith's younger clone through the exact same training and raise him in the exact same way to make him a perfect duplicate of older Will Smith. That's a little bit of a stretch. Kind of like how Star Trek Nemesis used to drive me crazy, because the idea of cloning, that doesn't, you don't understand what cloning is. But the movie, I think, looks cool. The clip we saw at CinemaCon, which was more extensive, the action's incredible. It has a lot of verisimilitude. It's really hard-hitting, really realistic. And I think the technology they used looks pretty astonishing. I mean, young Will Smith, totally
That's
convincing.
Fresh Prince of Bel-Air Will Smith.
I mean, that
right
was
there.
amazing.
Yeah.
And Ong Lee was talking about, he made these constant jokes about how he had too much Will Smith in his life. And I think, look, the movie looks to me, it's Ong Lee. It's a world-class filmmaker. I mean, one of my favorite movies of all time is The Ice Storm. I can't wait to see this movie. I think it's going to be great. I just hope the cloning issue, they understand it more as we see more of the film.
And maybe they'll build in some plot devices that kind of explain, like, for all I know, they raised the original Will Smith character and then they followed the exact same. I don't know. We'll have to wait.
Right.
I had the same kind of issues with Us, actually. So I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But guys, did you see this new Gemini Man trailer? If so, what did you think? Are you optimistic like we generally are? Maybe you think it was a lot better than we thought we'd do. Maybe you thought it looked terrible. Jump down in the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to our main topics today. How do we select our main topics here on the John Campea Show? Well, it's really rather simple. See, you guys select the main topics by jumping over to the website, www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you get there, you'll see a form. Fill out that form and hit submit, and maybe, just maybe, you'll see your topic or question as one of the main issues here on the John Campea Show. With that down, let's go on to the first main topic today. And the first main topic today comes to us from Daddy B, who writes, "The Lion King footage thus far looks like they somehow shot real animals on film." Yeah, they do. The lions no longer come across as cute, lovable characters, but rather fearsome predators from the Nature Channel that happen to talk. Could it fail for looking too real? You know, Rob, one of the things that we've talked about when it comes to the Lion King stuff is we've been gushing and oohing and awing about the fact of just how incredible and incredibly real this all looks. Do you think maybe the viewer has a point in saying, you know, maybe it looks too real. Maybe it's not allowing us to go into a fantasy sort of idea, and there's something about... Do you think that maybe the amazing job they did making this thing look so photoreal could actually be a hindrance?
You know, that's an interesting philosophical point. You know, we talk a lot about the uncanny valley, and then now we've moved into the realm where there is no uncanny valley here. It's totally real. But I think that once animals start speaking, and once they start talking in English, I do think that there is that level of we have the line, the Rubicon, if you will. We're crossing the line into unreality enough that we know that animals can't talk.
Right.
We know that they cannot be as articulate as, say, Mufasa is. Hell, I can't be as articulate as Mufasa is. But we know that's not real. However, you know, if we start watching these animals battling, and there is some battling going on, as we know from the Lion King story, is there going to be blood? You know, is someone going to get scratched? Are we going to see the circle of life realistically portrayed? I don't know. I think it's a really good point. I'm not going to know the answer to this until I'm sitting in the theater, I think, but it raises a really interesting question. How realistic is too realistic? Is talking enough? Or when these animals fight with one another, I mean, we saw that incredible scene at CinemaCon where Mufasa is explaining to Simba about eating other animals, and you know, they get into it. They talk about philosophically what it could mean. I don't necessarily want to see our great lion characters eating I don't know if I want to see
killing a
that.
gazelle and ripping them to pieces.
Yeah, because do they only kill and eat animals that can't talk? I don't know, man, but it's a really interesting philosophical question.
You know what's funny though is it brings up the point that I don't know that the audience completely knows what they want from this movie yet. Because on one hand, you have a lot of people who are expressing some concern, well, if it's just a remake of Lion King, why remake it at all?
Right.
Then if they make it really fundamentally different, like a completely different experience with a completely different medium, if you will, of photorealistic looking like, so it changes the experience. And then people are going, well, now it's not enough like the original. With the original animated, it had the cuteness to it and all that kind of stuff. Although I don't know how you look at baby Simba in this and not think he looks adorable, but it's a little bit of a conundrum that I think not only the filmmakers face, that maybe we as an audience face as well.
Right.
Do we really know what we want from this movie? Some people say they want something new, but then when new stuff comes, they kind of backtrack on that, say this isn't enough like the original. Some people say they want it just like the original, but then when there's really familiar elements, we feel like, but now we've seen this before. So it's going to be interesting to see. The reason I'm so looking forward to this movie is because that photorealism is going to take this great story and make it a different experience, because we feel like we're looking at the real thing. So I think you're right though, it's going to be really interesting to see how we feel when we actually see the movie.
Yeah.
Does that photorealism add to it, or does it take away? It's an interesting point.
I've always thought that fantasy films have to have a little bit of awe and a little bit of wonder in them to work. And from what we saw at CinemaCon, I think both you and I was awed, and I did have a sense of wonder. And I was really enchanted by watching this. I was so hypnotized by what I was seeing that I'm really excited for it. I don't think there's going to be a problem, but then again, we only saw a clip. What's it like to be immersed in this world for an hour and a half or 2 hours?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to finding out, that's for sure. All right, guys, what do you think about that? Do you think it's possible that, hey, maybe doing so good at making this look real could actually be a bad thing? Or do you think that's nonsense? Jump down in the comment section and let us know your thoughts. All right, let's move on now to the second main topic today. And the second main topic today comes us from Luca Newton, who writes, "Hey, John and the crew. So there was a new Detective Pikachu trailer recently. I think it was pretty great. What were your thoughts? Thank you." All right, so Detective Pikachu is a weird experience for me. It's been a weird experience for me because at first when I heard that they were making it, I thought, well, this sounds dumb. And then I heard Ryan Reynolds got attached, and I'm like, that's interesting, but it still sounds really dumb. And then the trailers came. And the trailers sort of knocked my socks off. I thought they were endearing and fun and had a tone to it that I just thought was, using the D word, delightful. I really did. And all of a sudden, I found myself going, wow, I can't wait to see Detective Pikachu. This looks amazing. Then we went to CinemaCon. And they actually showed us a full clip in a context, like a 5-minute clip. And I got to tell you, it didn't work for me. And the tone felt weird and off. And maybe it was just a bad scene that they picked, whatever. So now this new trailer comes out, and they've gone in a very different direction. They've gone for the nostalgia and the cuteness aspect of the movie by having this trailer set to the music of, and I think to myself, it's a wonderful world, showing all the Pokemon and stuff like that. So instead of going for what they were going for, say in those first couple of trailers, which was the charm, the humor, the energy, all that kind of stuff, this one was almost playing a little bit to Pokemon nostalgia, if you will, and just trying to highlight that part of it. Rob, did you think that was a good direction for them to go? It is different from the other trailers. Do you think it was a good direction for them to go?
Well, not for you and I. and I agree with you. I think I have no nostalgia for Pokemon. And what I was interested in is the whole world and how Justice Smith meets Ryan Reynolds' Pikachu, and it goes from there. That Roger Rabbit element, the sort of world building they're going to do. How can Pokemon exist in the real world? I loved all of that. But going back, part of the reason I think that scene we saw at CinemaCon didn't work is that we have no connection to the Pokemon. Right. I don't know them all. I don't know their powers. I don't know. So maybe in that sense, the movie's not directed at me. However, I thought the conceit of this movie was pretty genius. So like you, I was really excited about it. but it looks like they might be backing off. They certainly were backing off what we saw at CinemaCon because we didn't know what that Pokemon was. So when he's, moving around he's like the mime
the
Pokemon.
meme, right, the mime.
And I'm like, what? I don't know what that is. So it didn't work for me. I know it didn't work for you, but I think that, for kids who grew up with Pokemon, if you're like 20 years old, even if you're in college and you're a philosophy major, I think this might turn you on.
I'll tell you what, I thought it was a sweet trailer. And now, do I prefer the other ones they did with the energy and the humor? Yes. But I thought it was a really interesting change of gears because normally with these campaigns, they decide what tone they want the campaign to have, and then everything in the campaign has that tone, right? This was a little bit different. It feels like they just took one trailer, changed gears on it, and while I preferred the other ones, I got to admit, I watched it a couple of times, and I was like, this kind of makes me want to see this. It's got a sweetness to it, and it's got, this energy to it that I think could work really well, and yeah, what can I say? I liked it. Did you guys see the new Detective Pikachu trailer? If so, jump down in the comments, of course, and let us know your thoughts on it. All right, let's now move on. This one's going to be a doozy. Let's move on to the third main topic today. And the third main topic today comes to us from Terrence G, who writes, "Hey, John. Okay, now he wrote this yesterday, clearly. I'm not sure about the time zone difference, but I think as I am writing this, you're literally on your way to the premiere or watching the movie right now, talking about Avengers Endgame. So I wanted to get this to you early. How was Endgame? Tell me now. I need to know more than I need air. Speak now." All right, Terrence, thank you so much for the enthusiasm and the energy. Okay, so yes. Last night, Ann and I went to the Avengers Endgame premiere at the LA Convention Center. It was amazing. I got to tell you this too. So we took a limo there, so we got to go to the limo drop-off areas. And they were pulling up 2 cars at a time. People get out, 2 cars. People get out of the 2 cars. So we go there, and our car pulls up with one car in front of us. So out of the 2 cars pulling up, we're the one behind. And of course, the security people come over, open the doors. We get out, and Chris Hemsworth gets out of the car in front of us. And Anna's just like, and I'm just like, and he was great. He stood around, took pictures with everybody. It was wonderful. Went in. Now, I should mention this. I told people, hey, we're going to be there at the premiere, blah, blah. If you catch us on the live stream, send us a screenshot, because normally people send us screenshots. But because of the way we went in, we never actually went out to the area where they were filming everything for the live red carpet stream. So nobody saw us because we went in a back way. But anyway, I didn't know that at the time, so my apologies for that. So we went in, watched the movie. The energy was palpable. The excitement was through the roof. Everybody was very excited to see it. And I'll tell you what, before we get to my specific thoughts, I'm going to tell you what, the overwhelming thoughts on Endgame coming out were through the roof positive. Like through the roof positive. Let's take a look at some of the things being said. Eric Davis over at Fandango writes, Avengers Endgame is a masterful epic, a true culmination of 22 films that not only concludes the story, but expands upon it. You'll learn more about the other movies while this one unfolds. If Infinity War is the brawn, Endgame is the brains. And wow, what an ending. Angie J. Hahn, I believe from Mashable, writes, Avengers Endgame is an immensely satisfying payoff, not just to Infinity War, but to all the films that came before. This is why the MCU, and I say this as somebody that was not especially enamored with Infinity War. Eric Eisenberg from Cinema Blend writes, this can't be understated. Avengers Endgame is everything you want it to be and more. I am absolutely floored. A perfect reflection of the last 11 years that pays off everything in the best way possible. Without question, my new favorite Marvel Cinematic Universe film. I'm stunned. And then Brandon Davis writes, I just can't remember a cinematic experience like the one I just had with Avengers Endgame. Simply blown away. I like that the movie was made for every Marvel fan everywhere. So, and we could go on. There are more. There are lots more of those type. That was the general consensus. A few qualifiers that a few people were mentioning it here and there, but overall, the movie was an explosive success with people. Now, we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. So what were my responses? Well, there's still a review embargo until 3 o'clock this afternoon, but I can share with you what my social media posts were. I put out 3 specifically. I put out a couple social media posts last night. Starting off with my social media post that I put up on Instagram, I wrote this, Avengers, and I'll explain it in a second here. Avengers Endgame is quite good. The first 2 acts are a mixed bag of pros and cons, but the final hour is probably the best hour in any movie we'll have this year. I wish it was a little more even, but really enjoyable overall. Then I put the same thing up on Twitter. On Twitter, I wrote Avengers Endgame, a mediocre first 2 hours that is equal parts cool moments and problematic moments that ends with a final hour that's an absolute magnificent geek wet dream. I need to see it again tomorrow, that's today, to solidify my thoughts. Now, one other thing I kind of wrote, and I'll talk about this here first, that I put up, I said, probably the most satisfying thing about Endgame, besides the entirety of the last hour, is the mix of things that do and don't happen from what you swore would happen, and that do and don't happen from what you swore would never happen. It's a nice mix that keeps you on your toes. And I want to talk about that first here, Rob, is this. We all went into Endgame with a bunch of predictions, the pro and con predictions. The pro predictions of these things will absolutely happen in here. And then our con predictions of these are the things that will never happen in this. And much like Infinity War was, a bunch of things that we swore would happen did and did not happen. And then a bunch of things we swore and I swore would never happen, sure enough didn't. And some of them sure enough did. And it was enough that it was a mix of those things that you were expecting and weren't expecting, both pro and con, that kept you satisfied because the things you kind of thought would happen are happening, but it kept you on your toes and surprising you because there are things a lot of people thought would happen that I said wouldn't and they didn't. But then there were a lot of things I said wouldn't happen and do. And it was that great mix of things that really keeps you on your toes. I like that a lot about Infinity War, and I liked a lot about it here. I will say this. Overall, I quite like this movie. It is my third favorite Avengers film. Now, you all know I quite like Avengers Age of Ultron, but I would rank them right now as the first Avengers is still my favorite. Infinity War is my second favorite. Endgame is my third favorite. And then Age of Ultron, which I still quite like a lot, is my fourth favorite. I thought the first 2 hours of this film, as I kind of mentioned in my social media posts, and I'm going to go into no details here at all, but I thought the first 2 hours of the film, like I said in my posts, were a mixed bag of some really cool things that happened, but also a few problematic things that happened. So it was kind of even going through the first 2 hours, right? Like there's some bad things would happen, but there's some really good things would happen. Just as an example, I won't give any details at all. There's a running gag involving Thor in this movie that I thought was really funny at first, but to me got really tired really fast. But you'll see what I mean when you see the movie. Anyway, so it was a little bit of a mix. And then you get to the final hour of the movie. I cannot emphasize this enough. This is going to be, and I know we're early in the year, this is going to be the single greatest hour of any movie that comes out this year. It might arguably be the greatest hour of any comic book movie ever. Now, you know me, I like my sports analogies, right? So imagine this. Hockey game is 3 periods, right? And for me, the first 2 periods was a tie. I mean, there were some pros, there were some cons. I was watching it, I liked it, but it was pros and cons, kind of a tie. Come see, come saw. And then in the third period, your team explodes and scores 16 goals in the third period. That's what Avengers Endgame is. And now I think a lot of people who are coming out of it, I don't want to make excuses for why other people are saying the things they do, whatever. But I think a lot of it is that last hour of the movie is so indescribably good. Like the first thing I wrote in my tweet was, it is a magnificent geek's wet dream. I am honestly, Rob, when we get to the last hour of this movie, I'm going to move 1 seat over from you because I don't know that anybody should be within flailing distance of you when the last hour. And don't get me wrong, like I said, I have some problematic areas in the first 2 hours as well. But those are balanced out. There is some really good stuff in the first couple hours. But for me, this movie is all about the landing. It's all about the last hour. Now, I know I'm being very, very vague because the review embargo doesn't lift till 3. I'm just giving my general impression and elaborating what I wrote in my social media post. I will put up my actual, more fleshed out review, non-spoiler, later today at 3 o'clock. But like I said in the tweet, it's all about the last hour. And it's not like the first 2 hours are crap. They're okay. The first 2 hours to me are okay, some good, some bad. But the last hour is, simply speaking, everything John Schnepp ever wanted to see in a comic book movie. If that's the terminology and the way I can phrase it to really make it hit home for you guys, it is everything you've ever wanted to see in a comic book movie. I was gasping. I was cheering. I was jumping out of my chair. It is just, oh God. I mean, what a way to end the 22 film saga. So anyway, there you go. Overall, a lot of people, to me, it's not my favorite MCU movie of all time. It's not my favorite comic book movie of all time. It's okay. It's okay for the first couple hours, and then it just kicks into this wet dream fantasy that we've all had about what a comic book movie could be, and it crushes that last part. And I think everybody, particularly because that real strong part comes in the final act, I think everybody's going to walk out of this thing really satisfied. I think everybody's going to walk out of this really satisfied. And, you're reading these online reactions. People are saying they laugh, they cry. I've been telling you guys this whole time, cry time. And if you're reading all these tweets out there, everybody's saying I cried, cry time. Like, I'm telling you what. And you're going to see there are a couple of my predictions that were bang on the money. You're going to see a couple of my predictions were way off the mark. And I think we're all going to have that same experience. But anyway, guys, that's the general first impressions we've been getting from social media, including my social media and everybody else. What do you guys think? Now, look, let me say this here quick. I know that what a lot of people wanted was to see, what the script said was that I was supposed to get on social media last night and say this is the greatest thing ever. I know that's what the script said. I was supposed to get on social media last night and just talk about how great everything is. But you guys who watch me know that that's not me if that's not how I actually feel. All I can do is give my honest opinion on something. You guys will also remember coming out of The Last Jedi at the premiere, everybody wrote and raved about how this was maybe the greatest Star Wars movie ever, whereas my tweet was like, this is great, but I hated this part, and I didn't like what they did with Benicio del Toro, and I didn't like what they did with Rose and Finn, and because that's how I felt. I like to give a little bit of context to what I write. And I know there were some people, oh my God, Rob, inevitably, as soon as I wrote, let me pull this up again, the two in particular. Avengers Endgame is quite good. The first 2 acts are a mixed bag of pros and cons, but the final hour is probably the best hour any movie will have this year. Wish it was a little more even, but really enjoyable overall. Last one, Avengers Endgame, mediocre. First 2 hours is equal parts cool moments and problematic, but it ends with a final hour that's an absolute magnificent geek wet dream. Need to see it again tomorrow to solidify my thoughts. And of course, inevitably, I started getting a ton of messages from people saying, John, why didn't you like Endgame? And at this point, I don't know what to do but to throw my arms up and to say, oh, whatever. So look, bottom line, I really enjoyed this film. The last hour is one of the greatest, probably the greatest hour in any comic book movie ever. Do I wish the first 2 hours were a little bit more like that? Yes. But overall, it's a really solid film. It's very enjoyable. You might be in theaters. I've never seen this happen before, Rob. You might be in a theater that is literally on its feet during the last hour of this movie. You might, I've never seen that. You only see that in live events like concerts or sporting it. You might actually find yourself in a theater where everybody's going to be on their feet. I mean, it's just like that. Anyway, Rob, you heard me going on and on. You've read some social media stuff going on. What's your response to it?
Look, to me, I just have one question for you.
Okay. I'll see if maybe I can answer.
Well, the question that you talk about the first 2 hours.
Right.
Are the first 2 hours necessary in order to achieve that final hour? Does it all sort of work together in order to, whether I don't know if it's a slow burn, a fast burn, the different tonal qualities you seem to be alluding to, but without those first 2 hours, would that third hour be the ultimate geek fanboy comic book fantasy that we've all dreamed of?
Let me say, I think some of it was. I'm going to be as vague as possible.
Sure.
Here.
No,
there's also some of it that was not necessarily to build towards the third act. Some of it was to build and to be nostalgia and reminiscing of things that came previously in those first 2 hours. What they were going for was right. I just don't know. Like, but to me, my reaction was a little bit mixed in the first two acts about what was effective and what wasn't effective. And so to me, it was a zero sum. It was
Sure.
it was a tie game for me going into the third period, going into the third act of the film. But I will say that would the third act have been the greatest hour in comic book movie history had it not been for the first two? I don't know. That's you know what? I need to watch it again, which I'm going to do in a few hours. And really, that's a great question, Rob. That's a really, really good question. I got to think. I got to have that in mind when we're watching the film.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always curious because a lot of the time when people say things are slow or uneven, for me, I like build up and story, and I like what they're.
But notice I didn't say slow.
No, you didn't say that.
I didn't say slow.
But so I'm always curious because some people, it's different strokes for different folks, and again. I think a lot of it. Let me ask you this. Here's another question. Do you think if you have a lifelong relationship with first reading the comic books, watching the animation, the series, the animated series as you grew up, and then you started watching the MCU, that if you have that kind of a lifelong association with these characters, that the film might work better?
My guess is no, because I really found it disassociated from the comics.
Okay.
As much as the MCU has been really traditionally up until this point, right? It's kind of been like that. I got to tell you, one of the coolest things about this event last night was seeing all the stars and how much the stars of these films truly love each other.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just on stage. Afterwards at the party, every time I came across cast from the film, they were all with each other and with other cast members and hugging and laughing and crying and stuff like that. And Robert Downey Jr. was hanging out, and obviously you saw Robert Downey Jr. and John Favreau there. Incredibly, those are the two guys that kind of started the whole thing. But whether it's Scarlett Johansson with Karen Gillan, hanging out and hugging, even though how many scenes did those two have in the entire film? Hardly any. You saw Brie Larson with. There was a moment, Brie Larson with Chris Hemsworth, they were hugging and laughing and blah, blah. I know a lot of people are trying to make drama out of that, but that was there last night. It was really interesting seeing that. It felt like an event because you had this group of people that had worked this long and this hard, and Kevin Feige was the star of the night. When they introduced everybody, big cheers and everything, but it's really neat to see that when they then said Kevin Feige, the whole place is on its feet. Standing ovation for Kevin Feige. And I remember going back a number of years when Kevin Feige was the unknown name. It's like Josh Whedon, yeah! And our head president of Marvel Studios, Kevin Feige? Now today, Kevin Feige's the rock star. And it's kind of neat to see that. So...
Well, I have to say, I watched the live feed. I watched the entire live feed of Arrivals.
Wasn't it good?
It was really good, and I have to say, it was very funny seeing Scarlett Johansson. They've broken it up into clips, so you can watch it on YouTube. But when Scarlett Johansson met Chris...
Evans?
No, Star-Lord.
Pratt. Yeah,
Chris
yeah.
Pratt.
And when she was interviewing him,
and
they were interviewing
it was so
each
funny.
other.
And she's like, yes, I just came back from the world tour. And Chris Pratt's like, oh, you went to Shanghai, you went to the Ukraine, you went to this. She goes, no, we didn't go to any of those places.
No, I didn't go to any of those.
And he was like, yeah, I was just at home. And it was funny to see how the characters that have been snapped, that did not survive the snapping, who were not on the press tour, who are not on the poster, they're not, and how they're like, yeah, we didn't get to do any of that. And it was a very funny sort of a running joke, and all the different characters sort of played, the actors played that up in different ways, and I thought it was great. And when they were interviewing, it was Favreau, and then Robert Downey Jr. jumped on stage, and then
Gwyneth Paltrow
Chris Hemsworth
came up.
And it was just... for this fan, I mean, I don't normally watch these things. I watched the Jedi, the Star Wars red carpets, and I watched the Marvel red carpets like this, and they're so much fun, and you just feel like,
but
wow.
What the cringe moment of the night was, though, right?
Oh, I don't know.
So whenever they've always got these same hosts on these red carpets,
yeah,
and the one dude, there's this one big, he's got to be, I don't know who it is. I'm guessing a former pro athlete. He's got these long dreads, and he's really quite good. He's got a great charisma. But a lot of these people, they're like, hi, we're Hollywood hosts. And anyway, there's this one girl who was doing it, and I'm being an asshole. Anyway, one of the hosts, Oh, it was just the one I'm not particularly fond of. I don't want to say anything mean because I'm being a jerk.
It's the Kobe Smothers.
Oh my God. But there's this one that me and Ann always notice. Like, oh, yeah, we're not the biggest fans of this one, but whatever. Colby Smulders comes on stage, and this host looks, oh, and now we're joined by Evangeline Lilly. And Colby Smulders like, I'm Colby Smulders. And it was in the theater, because before the movie starts, when you're in the premiere, they're playing the live red carpet stream up on the big screen. And we already had about 1,000 of us were in the theater already, because it was getting close to start time. When Colby got on stage, she goes, and we're joined by Evangeline Lilly. And I'm Colby. The whole theater was like, oh, it was the awkward moment of the night.
But Colby, man, she rescued that.
She did. She played
was
like a boss.
That was one of the classiest, coolest moments. I mean, if you don't respect a woman after that, she's already misrecognized. She turned around and said, "We've been watching you in the car. You guys did such a great job. You're still doing a great job." That was one of the sweetest, coolest things. Mad respect for what she did.
By the way,
unbelievable.
Good Canadian kid. Good Canadian. Just want to point that out. Colby Smulders, good Canadian kid. Just want to point that out.
She was, I mean, that was the epitome of class. That moment's going to go down in my mind in Hollywood history. I can't wait to meet her one day and tell her that as soon as I get her hot toy that I'm missing from my collection.
All right, guys, listen, I know a lot of you guys are going to probably want to talk more about Endgame. I'll answer what I can, but I'm not going to break any spoiler stuff. I'm not going to say too much. But if there's general questions you got, go ahead and fire those in. We'll get to those live questions in just a bit. We just got a couple more main topics to get here, too, though, and then we're going to go over to the live questions. Next up comes to us from Thomas Levesque, who writes, with May 3rd being pretty packed with Long Shot, Intruder, or Uglydolls, which film do you think might actually make more on that day? Keep up the good work. Man, your show rock. Thank you so much for that, Thomas. I really appreciate it. And yes, so May 3rd is coming up, and it's an interesting week. We got a couple of interesting looking films opening up in the same weekend. First of all, we got Long Shot, which they screened at CinemaCon, but I wasn't feeling good, so I couldn't go to it. Ugly Dolls, which looks stupid as hell, but I'm actually hearing is quite good. Full disclosure, it's a Hasbro property. Half of my household income comes from Hasbro, but I am hearing it's pretty good. And then we've got The Intruder. I'm a big fan of Megan Good. I'll see just about it. I love seeing her and stuff. Which one of these is going to win the boxes? I'll just give you my first impression right here, Rob. I'm not, surprisingly enough, hearing a lot of positive enthusiasm for Long Shot, even though I think this looks great.
Me too.
Again, I didn't go to the screening at CinemaCon, but I think it looks great. I'm hearing quite good things about Uglydolls, and I'm not sensing anybody talking about The Intruder. So to me, when you mix the family aspect of it, not that that helped The Missing Link, but when you mix the family aspect of it, it's a recognizable IP with Uglydolls. They're cute, they're adorable, blah, blah. To me, it's kind of a runaway win. I think Uglydolls is going to actually take this thing that weekend. What about you?
Well, they're really pushing Long Shot. I mean, I can't remember a movie that I've seen more trailers for, more commercials, more ads in front of YouTube videos. I mean, they're pushing it, but that could mean, like you said, it maybe not as good. I like the idea behind it. I like the premise. But you know, Uglydolls have been around for a long time, and I think you might be right about that. And if it is indeed good, you know, that's one of those movies that people and families can discover, and I think kids want to go. I mean, if you're a kid, who doesn't want to go see the Uglydolls movie? Right. I mean, that's as punk rock as a 7-year-old can get.
All right, guys, what do you think is going to win that weekend? Is it going to be Long Shot? Is it going to be Uglydolls? Is it going to be The Intruder? Jump down the comment section below and let us know what you think. All right, final main topic of the day, and then we'll go over to our live questions. I'm sure a lot of you guys want to talk about more Avengers Endgame. Let's get to the final topic here. Final topic today comes to us and submitted by Zach Buckler, who writes, hey guys, well, the Battle of Winterfell is next Sunday. I was hoping you give the odds of several main characters dying in that episode like you did for Avengers Infinity War and Endgame. It's going to be nuts. Have a great week and keep bringing on the filthy. All right, thanks a lot for that, Zach. And yup, this is kind of what we've been waiting for. It's the Battle of Winterfell. Of course, the last episode of Game of Thrones ended with the Knight's Army has now showed up at Winterfell, Everybody's there. We had all the character build up, all that kind of stuff there, and now hell is about to be unleashed. They're about to go totally nuts on it. So, Rob, what they're asking here is, we did this for Infinity War last year. We did it for Endgame. We took a bunch of characters. So what are the odds of them dying? Now, we're not talking now about Game of Thrones by the end of the season. We're just talking about the Battle of Winterfell. So, Rob, I'm going to give you my predictions here of the percentage chances of 8 characters in Game of Thrones, because I only had so much room to put into a graphic, and what their chances are of them dying. Then I want to get your over and under on them. So, okay, let's get started with this. Battle of Winterfell, Deadpool. Here we go. Jon Snow. I only give Jon Snow an 11% chance of dying in the Battle of Winterfell. They seem to be more and more making the story about him in this thing. They seem to have a lot of intent of where they want this to go. So it's possible 11%, because sometimes they like to kill a character we didn't think they were going to kill. But I think it's a fairly low chance. I'm going to give Jon Snow 11%. Daenerys, I'm going to go as high as 37%. There's a lot of stuff going on dramatically here where, for dramatic purpose, her death right now could put a lot of weird things in motion. Again, I don't think it's likely that she dies, but I'm going to go one of the higher chances of anybody dying. I'm going to give her a 37% chance. Sansa Stark. We see her coming into her own, which makes me a little bit worried they might be setting her up to get her head on the block. But overall, I think they've got more plans for her as we get into the final couple of episodes, 18%. Arya. Hey, look, whenever you're going into a big dramatic scenes in a movie or TV show and somebody going into it just had a really good, happy moment, that's never usually good news. Arya just got her first little bit of action in the sack, and now that's why I think she is. And she's going to be front lines in the battle. She's going to put herself in the front lines of the battle. I give her a 23% chance of getting knocked off. Jaime. They've seemed to bring... if they concluded Jaime's character arc right now, I'd be satisfied. From where he was to where he came, knighting Sir Brienne of Tarth. He's going to be out on the front lines. He's only got one arm left. I give him actually a fairly high percentage chance of dying at 37%, which brings us into Brienne of Tarth. Remember I just said whenever somebody has a really good, happy moment and feels great, their heads might be on the chopping block. There has never been a better episode of Game of Thrones for Brienne of Tarth than the last episode. You've never seen her that happy, that overjoyed. She gets knighted, a lifelong wish and dream, all that kind of stuff. She is going to be commanding one of the legions. She's going to be on the front lines. Out of all these characters, I give her the highest percentage chance of dying, which could have a profound emotional impact on somebody like a Jaime if he survives. I'm setting Brienne at 41%. Tyrion. I said going into the season, I wouldn't be shocked if Tyrion died in the first episode, just because Game of Thrones does that to us. But again, I feel like even in these last 2 episodes, I feel like they've been setting up a greater purpose for him in the last couple of episodes. I have him at the lowest chance of dying at only 9%. And then there's everybody's favorite Wyndham Hotel spokesperson, the wizard, Tormund, saying that he would knight Brienne 10 times over. This guy is gold. He's going to be out there fighting great big moments in this one, which could be setting him up for a fall. The only reason I set him as low as 19% is this. If you're going to off him, they could have easily just offed him on the wall in the season finale of last year. They had him survive, I feel like, for a reason. So I'm going to still set it low, but somewhere in the middle there, I'm going to set him at 19%. So Rob, there we go. Those are the odds I've set. Let's start with you on this. Jon Snow, over or under 11% that Jon Snow dies in the Battle of Winterfell?
Under
11%. Okay, so I've set it pretty low, but I can see why. I'm curious to know what you think about this one. Daenerys at 37%.
Here's the thing. Daenerys is the person that has the least connection to the White Walkers and what's happening. Nothing, she wants to get to the Iron Throne. She's wanted to do all of these things, but this story is all about the Stark family. It started with the Stark family going to King's Landing. We started at Winterfell, and I have a feeling we're going to end this story at Winterfell, not in this episode. I would not be surprised, because wouldn't that be the most shocking death? And I think there's a possibility because she doesn't know what's going on.
Right.
She doesn't understand the North. She doesn't understand the people there. She doesn't understand how Sansa and Reek, Theon, when they embraced, she was like, "What's up with this? Who is this guy? What? She's out of her depth. We don't need her anymore. But more importantly, the story doesn't need her anymore. And I think that, you could play it out, but we have to think, what's going on here? And I think the Night King is probably going to take her out. I think
you're going to go over 37%.
I'm going to go over 30%.
And I thought I sat that. Okay, so you're going to take over 37% on that. And I like that analysis. All right. Sansa, I set her at 18%. Not a big number, but what do you think? An 18% over or under?
I'm over. I think Sansa Stark is going to be sitting on the Iron Throne. And I think that because, again...
Over. So you mean under.
Oh, did I say under? Yes,
yeah.
Under. I think she's going to take it all the way to the end, because what happened? She was taken to King's Landing by her father in the beginning. This is her story. It's seeing how she went... I mean, talk about the ultimate Me Too movement story. She overcomes every adversity. She's playing the Game of Thrones this whole time. And I think I want to see her maybe... Her and Tyrion might wind up. They're married. Anyway, that's just a thought.
It's a good thought. It's a pretty damn good thought. All right. What about this one? Arya, 23%.
No, Arya is not going to die. As a matter of fact, I'm going to do you one better. Arya is going to kill the Night King.
Think that's the little weapon she put herself together?
She's going to kill. I don't know how she's going to do it, but that's what she's been groomed for. She's going to kill the Night King. Because what better, more exciting thing to do? Oh,
that would be great. I think she's going to take down a dragon with that spear, kind of the way the Night King took down the dragon with a spear too. Only she can't throw nearly as far as the Night King, but we'll see how that works out. All right, so you're going to take the under 23%.
Under 23.
Jaime Lannister, 37%. That's pretty high. You're going to take the over or the under on that?
I think he's going to die. But I'm going to take the under because I still believe that he has to have another final scene with Cersei in the story.
Oh, and there's a prophecy that her brother kills her, but that could be Tyrion. Okay, so you're going to take the under on 37%. This would be heartbreaking. Sir Brienne, I set her at as high as 41%. She just had a big joyful moment. She just had her lifelong wish.
Her story's
She's on the front line. What do you think?
Her story's done.
You think her story's done?
She's done. I mean... And if anything, it's going to be her and Tormund. Their entire relationship that could have been is going to take place on that battlefield, and they're both going out.
All right, so you're going to take the over 41%. Intriguing. All right, Tyrion, I set very low at 9%.
Again, his story's not over. And while, there's more to go with him. I think, look, if he died, it would be shocking, but I think it's a waste of his character. It's not the conclusion. The problem, in my mind, is the White Walkers have really nothing to do with any of the characters from King's Landing. It's all about the North and the Night's Watch. This is the end of that story. The North and the Night's Watch are going to we're going to reach a conclusion, whereas the story of King's Landing is not over yet. And
you think Tyrion's got a role to play in
that. And that's why you kill Daenerys, because then people are going to be like, oh my God, we thought she was going to win the Iron Throne. She never had a chance to win the Iron Throne.
All right, that leads us to the last person on the list, which is the aforementioned Tormund. You kind of already tipped your hand. I said it at 19% that he dies.
He's going to die, and it's going to be like two lovers. It's like Romeo and Juliet, two star-crossed lovers, never the two shall meet, or whatever. I don't know. But Romeo and Juliet did meet, so it's a bad analogy. Tormund's going to die. Brienne is going to die. Their stories are over. They've done what they were supposed to do.
All right, guys. Well, what do you think?
Let me ask you, dude.
Okay, ask me. What do you got?
The Night's King.
Yeah.
What do you think? If someone said, what is your over and under on whether the Night King is going to die? Do you think he's going to die or not?
In the Battle of Winterfell?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I think he's done, because I think, Luke, you and I have talked about this before. I think that the White Walker's story is going to come to an end, so that the story of the Iron Throne, this whole show started with the story of the Iron Throne. It is the Game of Thrones. And so you've got two main conflicts that we still have to resolve in the final 4 episodes. We got the conflict with the White Walkers, and then we got Cersei. And so I believe the Night King dies. Now, I think somebody told me that the Battle of Winterfell might actually cross over 2 episodes. It might be 2 episodes long. So whether it's 1 episode or 2, I believe within the construct of the Battle of Winterfell, I think the Night King dies. I can't back that up. I'm just fan speculating, but I think he dies. And then in the aftermath of the Battle of Winterfell, it's now the scramble of, now we got to deal with this Cersei, with the Golden Company. What do we have left? Who do we have left? Do we take it to her? Is she taking it to us? And that's going to be the last couple of episodes. So, yeah, I think the Night King dies. I'm going to give it a 90%.
Me too.
90% that the Night King dies.
And I don't think it's going to cross over because, the Battle of Helm's Deep, if a battle lasts too long, you get battle fatigue. This is an 80-minute episode. I think it's going to be exhausting. I think this is going to be one of the greatest. It's going to outdo the Battle of the Bastards. It's going to be one of the greatest battles ever seen, if not the greatest battle seen on TV.
That's what they claim.
And I think it's going to be over because then the looming threat of the Golden Army and the rest of what's going on at King's Landing is enough.
And you saw the Iron Islands drama go to play out and all that kind of stuff.
Remember, there's only 3 more episodes after this episode.
I know, it's stupid. It's stupid. All right, guys, listen. What do you guys think about our Game of Thrones Deadpool? Jump down in the comments section and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys, with all that out of the way, as promised, let's dive over and start taking your live questions. You guys have been firing them and continue to fire them in here. We got some time. Let's sit around and talk about our favorite things. All right, first up, YTA2513 writes, at the end of the first Avengers, Cap wakes up listening to a ball game. I wonder how he felt when he found out that his Dodgers moved to LA. Probably not so good. I can't remember. There was another movie, Rob, where there was a out-of-time person where that became a gag.
Yeah.
Like, wait a minute, the Dodgers ain't in Brooklyn anymore? I can't remember what that was, though.
Neither.
But that was played out. It's a good observation, YT. Okay. Abel Contreras writes, how can a movie make over $2 billion and not win an Oscar? Well, here's the thing, Abel. You got to understand that there is not a correlation between money and quality. Money is often about the marketing and did you make material that people are interested in? And there is a quality issue too, because the better it is, more people will go back and watch repeated times. But like take an Avatar, for example. Avatar was a spectacle that everybody wanted to see, but it wasn't the best movie. I mean, it's a good movie. I enjoyed it. It's really good. And everybody wanted to see that spectacle. But making money at the box office does not equal quality, nor does lack of money at the box office equal a lack of quality. Some of the greatest films ever made didn't make much money at the box office. So never think that there's a correlation between money. There's an influence. There's something to be gleaned there, yes. But there's not a direct one-to-one correlation between money made and quality. It's just not the way it is. If that was the case, then the Transformers movies would probably be one of the greatest franchises of all time. All right. Darth Suthius writes, morning, guys. All hail the king. Oh, my goodness. Final Godzilla trailer had me weak in the knees. Well, I mean, you and I were talking about that, Rob, right? Like
Yeah.
I mean, I think the previous one was a better trailer, but this was still a damn good trailer.
I loved it.
Where's your anticipation level on a scale to 10 for Godzilla?
It's 10. I mean, this looks like the ultimate. I thought this looks like what I thought the Roland Emmerich Godzilla was going to be. Seeing the build-up, which had great marketing. This is doing it. I want monster foo. There's kung fu and then there's monster foo. And this looks like it has monster foo galore, and I'm excited.
All right, let's move on here. Marcus Robert Johnson writes, any truth to the Avengers cast roasting Brie Larson for saying she did her own stunts during Captain Marvel and or Avengers Endgame? Look, I don't know these people personally. All I can say is that at the party last night, there was a lot of hugging and laughing and high-fiving between Brie Larson and her fellow Avengers classmates, including Chris Hemsworth. So that's all I can tell you.
Can we talk about that dress she was wearing? Oh, my God.
Oh, my God. She looked
amazing.
And Scarlett Johansson's dress.
Unbelievable.
And she got changed after the red carpet. In the 5 minutes by the end of the red carpet and the start of the movie, she got changed into something more comfortable. But my God, that dress was just...
and her hair.
And Brie Larson's... Oh, everything was on point. It was all so on point. Okay. Let's see here. Where are we at here? TF writes, satisfying is the word most people are using. Consider myself intrigued. I hope I feel the same way. Satisfying is a good word. I mean, I think... particularly with the last hour, I think everybody is to different degrees, some more extreme, some less, but I think everybody's going to walk out satisfied. I mean, I think if you're a fan of the MCU and what they've done, I think everybody's walking out satisfied because, again, I cannot emphasize enough, the final hour of this movie is the greatest hour of any movie we're going to get this year. It's impossible to say that for sure because we haven't seen all the movies this year, but it's the greatest single hour of any movie, and I believe the greatest single hour in the comic book genre movie history. It's not just a single scene. It's like the full third act is like just in. I do think everybody's walking out satisfied. Rob, I think you're going to walk out satisfied.
I'm looking forward to it.
All right, let's see here. Ben Huser writes, get ready for fans saying you didn't like it. I know. As soon as if I don't come out and follow the script and say, this is the greatest thing that has ever happened to mankind, then people are like, why didn't you like it? I know. We've seen it happen 1,000 times, and it will continue to happen, and it still won't affect how I tell you guys my opinion. All I have, whether it makes me look good or bad, all I have to offer you guys is my honest opinion, and that's all I'm ever going to give you. All right, let's see. Ant Banks 1984 writes, couldn't keep my eyes off Scarlett Johansson last night. Dude, I mean, look, we all know Scarlett Johansson is like one of the most beautiful human beings on the planet, male or female. Look, we all know that, but then you see her in person, and you're like, and Anne turns to me, because we're right by Scarlett Johansson. And Anne turns to me and she looks at me. She goes, you do realize that Ryan Reynolds was with both Scarlett Johansson and Blake Lively. And I'm like, yeah. She's like, and Anne's like, he wins at life. I said, yeah, I've said that before myself. But she just looked stupid good. Stupid good. They all did. Brie Larson looked stupid good. It was dumb. It was dumb. It was dumb. They all look so good. Okay. Anyway, AFC writes, Endgame was the first half mediocre as overstuffed. No, to me, like mediocre means middle of the road. To me, it was the fact that it was a equal balance of some really good pros and some problems. Things that I found problematic. Now, maybe some of you will find some things more problematic than I did. Maybe a bunch of you will find some things less problematic. But to me, it was kind of an even score going through the first two acts. Is this film overstuffed? I will say this. If you read a bunch of the reactions from last night, in the very few social media reactions that do happen to say a couple of maybe minor critiques, is that there might be a little too much in it. And I'd say maybe a little bit, but they managed it well. They managed it really well. So I never felt like it was falling apart under its own weight or anything like that. And that would have been the danger. So yeah. So no, I wouldn't say that. Marcus Robert, pardon me, Johnson writes, would you rather see a movie on how Casper became Casper the Friendly Ghost or how Slimer became Slimer from Ghostbusters? Who is more iconic / popular? I'll give you this, Marcus. That's the most interesting question I've got in a while.
I'm thinking about it too. I'm like, pondering this.
I guess maybe Casper. Maybe I'd be, and especially if you put a little bit of a horror element into it. If you do that, I'm on board. Slimer's Slimer. I mean, Slimer's great, but Slimer's Slimer. You do a Casper movie and put a little bit of a horror edge to it. Kind of like what it looks like Brightburn is doing with the Superman mythology. You do a little, not like full La Llorona, but you do a little bit of that. I think so I'm going to go Casper. Rob, what about you?
I'm Casper too, because because he's a ghost, it insinuates he was once a human being. And what if, like you said, what if he was a really horrible person and his penance in the afterlife is to be Casper the Friendly Ghost, whereas Slimer was never a human being. He's
or what
just
if he was
ectoplasmic
What if he
creature.
died horribly?
That's what I mean. So like some horrible, but what if he deserved to die?
Yeah. You can play on that a lot. All right. New Ulysses writes, Karen Gillan as Nebula is being overlooked and she is drop dead gorgeous. She was, to me, a little bit of a throwaway character in Guardians of the Galaxy 1. She has become more and more impressive. And Nebula, all I'm going to say is she has a real part to play in this movie. And you're right, she is being overlooked, and she has really come into her own in this, and I was really impressed with her in this. Randall Cartwright writes, Doctor Strange saw how Endgame would end 14,605 times and didn't spoil a thing. Let's all be Doctor Strange for the next few weeks. Absolutely. Pardon me, they were saying Thanos still demands your silence. No spoilers, guys. Don't ruin the movie for other people. All right, Darth Suthius writes, as much of a tactician that he is, he's not good at being aware of his surroundings, is he? He got jumped by Hulk, then had a mountain smashed on him by Tony, then got blasted by Thor's lightning, LOL. I'm talking about Thanos. I don't know. Hulk is pretty quick. Hulk has got like super speed. He's pretty fast. So if he jumps out of nowhere and jumps you, that has nothing to do with him being a tactician. That just means he wasn't aware that a Hulk was there. As far as the mountain thing, remember, there's lots of floating debris and just having something then push down, and if you get caught off guard. But remember, there's a lot of times in these movies, people tried to sneak up on Thanos and tried to do something underhanded, and he catches it too. So I don't think his position as a great tactician is in threat here. Rob, do you?
No, but can I ask you a question about the Hulk?
Yes.
Somebody had said last night that
be careful. Make sure you don't give anything away.
No, this is good. Somebody said last night that in this movie, it looks like Mark Ruffalo is having the most fun of all the cast.
I don't know that I'd say that. I will say Mark Ruffalo looks like he's had more fun doing this one than he's ever had.
All right.
In any of them, though. That becomes apparent. I think that's fair to say. But as far as Thanos as a tactician goes, I wouldn't worry about it. Hey, look, even the best, the greatest of all time, right? Even Muhammad Ali got hit with some shots. Doesn't mean he wasn't great. But yeah, don't worry. His place is still good there. Thanks for that, Darth Suthius, and thanks for the super chat, man. That's a really generous contribution to the channel. Thank you for supporting us that way. All right. Raven writes, you may have already addressed this by now, but tell us what we really want to know. How many people did you notice get up and use the restroom? There were a number. And it wasn't easy because the way they set, this wasn't a regular movie theater. They set up a theater in the LA Convention Center specifically for this, and there was very little legroom. My legs, I had to widen my knees apart just so they weren't pushing into the chair in front of me. So it was difficult because a lot of times you couldn't just move your legs for people to walk through. You literally had to stand up to let people get through. So you could tell people really didn't want to. I saw a number of people getting up to use the bathroom, but I employed the strategy, Rob. I had a bottle of water. I left for the premiere at 4 o'clock. I had a bottle of water at 3 p.m. That was the last thing I drank. And the movie started at 6. So I went to the bathroom about 5 to 6, and then I made it through the whole movie. Yay! But I was thirsty as hell. I was also thirsty as hell by the end of it, but I made it through myself. But there were a number of people going to the bathroom.
Plus, the bathrooms aren't close by.
No, they're not.
In that venue.
No, it's a good hike.
Yeah, it's a hike, man. Were people running to the bathroom?
I didn't notice that because my eyes were more on the screen, but I think the fact that I was so aware that if I wanted to go to the bathroom, I would be really inconveniencing about 15 people that would have to get up and stand out of their seats for me to go by, who are then going to be blocking the view of people behind them. And I'm sure there were probably some people that were in a lot of pain just thinking, I can't get up and disrupt everybody. I'm sure there was a bunch of those
Let
people.
me ask you this on that same line of reasoning. Is there a place in this movie to go to the bathroom? Somebody asked me that.
Yes. I want to watch it a second time, though, today, just to make sure that I'm right about that before I say anything. So one of the things I'll say in the next day or two is when I think, if you really got to go, when I think you'd be a safe time to go. So, but I won't reveal that right now because I want to watch it again just to make sure I'm right. Okay. AFC writes, Endgame, did it focus on one character like Infinity War and Thanos? I know what the answer to that is. I'm just trying to decide if I can say it because I'm wondering if either saying yes or no would be a spoiler.
Yeah, don't say it.
You know what? You're right. I'm not going to say it.
Because I want to know.
I appreciate the question, but
I'm putting the kibosh on it.
Okay. Ant Banks, 1984 writes, from seeing Endgame last night, is it safe to say people can take a bathroom break early to midway through the movie and not miss anything? Yeah, I do. I do think there's probably 1 or 2 spots in the first 2 acts. You won't need to use the bathroom in the first act, but there's maybe 1 or 2 spots in the second act where I think you're going to be okay to get up and go. And again, I want to watch it again, but just to clarify what points those would be, though. All right, Zach Bartran writes, is there a chance that if HBO releases a box set of Game of Thrones, do you see them releasing the original pilot, or will that thing ever see the light of day? I'll be straight up with you, Zach. I know nothing about an original pilot that didn't see the light of day. Rob, is there such a thing?
Yeah, they did. They shot an original. They basically reshot the whole thing, and they have solicited a box set for Game of Thrones. I don't think they've announced what the special features are, but I pre-ordered it, so it is coming out. But I don't think that they would. There's probably actors in that unreleased pilot. Nobody wants to know I think the only time an unreleased pilot was ever really released was the first season of the original series when the cage was repurposed in the Menagerie, parts 1 and 2, because no one wants to admit when they've made mistakes. And actors who were in failed pilots, if you were in Game of Thrones and it was the pilot failed and then they redid it, would you want to be reminded of that after 8 seasons of greatness?
Yeah, but hey, I learned something. I didn't even know that was the case.
Yeah.
All right. I'd be curious to know who played Ned Stark. Anyway, or maybe he was the original guy anyway. Urban Excursion writes, I know it's early, but could you rank Avengers 1 through 4? For me personally, understanding that I like all of them, including Age of Ultron. For me, it's the original Avengers, and then Infinity War, and then Endgame, and then Ultron. That's how I rank them. I like them all, including that last place one in Ultron. I quite like that movie, but that's how I would rank them right now.
I love Age of Ultron.
You know what? The more I watch it, the more I appreciate it.
It's good.
It's a good movie. It is.
Love
and
it.
the more I watch it, the more I like it. And yet I still put the other 3 above it, but you're right. I quite like that movie. All right. Raven writes, was it the usual MCU opening logo or the Stan Lee one? Ooh. That's a question Rob had. This doesn't spoil anything in the movie, so I will. If you don't even know what Marvel logo pops up at the beginning, just cover your ears for a second. But this isn't a spoiler of the movie. They're back to their regular Marvel opening. They did that Stan Lee one special for Captain Marvel. This one's back to the regular Marvel opening. So just so you know. All right. Raven writes, all right, Rob, the countdown is on, buddy. Get your drinky poo ready. Also, my dear Ashley, you truly are a rose amongst thorns with this motley crew. Well, she's not here to hear that.
We're thorns?
Yeah, it's like, what the hell, dude? We're thorns?
No.
Yeah, and I should point out, the reason Ashley isn't here is because I don't really have a setup. I got to fix this. I don't really have a setup where I can have somebody in studio and somebody remote. I know, John, that sounds like the easiest thing in the world. It really does, doesn't it? But I just realized I didn't have a way to do that. So, and Rob needed to be here today because we need to leave from here to go to see Endgame. So that's why Ashley's not here today.
I'm so Ghibli, John. I can't even tell you.
So Ghibli. All right, next one up. J Meister 25 writes, you seem to be the lone wolf with mixed opinions. I felt the same when I first saw Dark Knight. A second viewing made a world of difference. Yeah, but again, I would just want to emphasize too that I was also the only person coming out of The Last Jedi who said something, with some constructive criticism as well. Like, I remember I was the only one that coming out of The Last Jedi, everybody's social media things was greatest thing ever, greatest thing ever, greatest thing ever. And mine was, hey, it's great, but I didn't like this and I didn't like this and I didn't like this. That's just the way I am. I try to just give my overall opinion. Look, if I love something to death, I'll just say I love it to death. If I hate something, I'll say I hate something. If I really like something, I will say, here's what I liked, here's what I didn't like. And that's just the way I do things. And I don't care what everybody else does. I don't care if everybody else says this is the greatest movie of all time. I don't care if everybody else says this is the worst movie of all time. I'm going to tell you what I think. And I'm not going to do what the cool kids do just because the cool kids do it. And if the 9 times out of 10 I agree with the cool kids, and I'll tell you I agree. But if every once in a while I got something, that's not the best thing, I'll mention that too, because like I said, the only thing I have to offer you guys, besides my incredible good looks and stunning wit, none of that was true. But the only thing I have legitimately to offer you guys is, and what is unique to me, is my opinion. That's all I can give you. So I'm never going to follow the script. I'm never going to say what you want me to say. I'm just going to say what I actually think. And sometimes it's going to be what you think too. Sometimes it's going to be what you don't think, but that's all I got. Just because everybody else is saying it. Look, believe me, I understand the temptation. Everybody else is saying this is the greatest thing ever. I got to say it's the greatest thing ever too. But then I'm not being honest with you guys, and then there's no point in you guys watching me. So, look, end of the day, this is a very good movie that had me jumping up and down and screaming, particularly in the last hour. In the first couple hours, it's pros and cons, ends strong. There you go. So that's my thoughts on it. And I am going to go see it again for a second time today. Then I'm going to see it a third time on Thursday, and then I'm going to see it a fourth time on Saturday. So we'll see how it all works out. All right. J Meister 25 writes, Raven writes, just saw the trailer for Gemini Man. I'm intrigued. That's the word I would use as well. I didn't think it was the greatest trailer in the world, but I will admit, I'm like, okay, yeah, I see where you're going. Young Will Smith looks crazy good, though. I mean, that's the part to me, Rob, that I was just like, wow.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and apparently that's going to be a major character in the film, so we'll see how that works out. Let's see. Kevin Brown writes, what made Avatar such a huge box office success? What properties and elements made it king of the box office? Love your show every day. Thank you so much, Kevin. I mean, look, that's been a question. You're talking about Avatar isn't just the number one box office film of all time. It is the number one box office film of all time by a mile. Like everything is, number 5 is 2.01 billion. Number 4 is 2.011 billion. Number 2 is like 2.1 billion. Avatar 2, almost 2.8 billion. It's like by like a mile. To me, first of all, it's a good movie. It's a good, solid, I didn't think it was best movie of the year, but it was a good movie, an entertaining movie. But it was also a spectacle of a movie. They literally did things in that movie that we had never seen before. Visually at any rate. Now, yes, was it a Pocahontas and Dances with Wolves in space ripoff? Yes. You know who said that? James Cameron. Yes, it was that, but it was such a spectacle that everybody had to see it. Like everybody's like, you got to go see this because it was crazy. And we may take that for granted today, but at the time, Rob, it was like something we had never seen before.
Look, I completely agree with that. I took my 70-year-old mother, she was 70 at the time, and she's not a very imaginative woman, very pragmatic person. At the end of that movie, she turned and looked at me, eyes as wide as saucers. We saw it in 3D IMAX. And she was like, how did they do that?
Yeah.
And it was an experience no one had ever felt before. The 3D was the best ever done. The whole world was amazing. It was very immersive. Plus, there's a lot to love in that film.
Yeah. It's like people just forget it wasn't just spectacle. It was also a really good movie.
I love Avatar.
Yeah.
I'm an unapologetic Avatar lover.
I agree. All right. Next up, Orange Hand writes, now we are free. I will see you again, but not yet. Oh, Jaimon, Hansu, and Gladiator. I will see you again, but not yet. Now, great ending. Great ending, dude. I could talk about Gladiator all freaking day.
Me too. I'm right there with you.
Oh, husband to a murdered wife, father to a murdered son.
People should know when they're conquered.
Would you, Quintus? Would I?
Oh, so good. So
strength
good.
and honor. I could talk that movie all day. Okay. New Ulysses writes, is getting a job at a company like AMC difficult and not the theaters but offices? I have the Cinemark HQ in Plano, Texas, and was wanting a job there. I mean, it all depends on what the job is. Do you want to be an accountant? Do you want to be in the legal department? Do you want to be an administrator? Do you want to be an assistant? Do you want to be a social media person? Do you want to be a trends analytics person? Do you want to be in acquisitions? It all depends. And if it's a big company like that, you got to be really good and have a really impressive resume to get in there. It's not probably an entry level kind of place. So is it tough? Sure. But how tough depends on what it is the job that you want to get. It's like when somebody asks me, John, how do I get into Hollywood? Fly into the Los Angeles airport, take the 5, and but like what do you want to be a writer? Do you want to be a director? Do you want to be a producer? Do you want to be a publicist? Do you like when somebody says, how do I get into Hollywood? Well, you got to be a little bit more specific sometimes.
Take the 101 and get off at Highland.
Yeah, there you go. You're in Hollywood. All right. Chief Dog writes, everyone says Endgame was A+. How was it, John? I wouldn't give it an A+, but it's damn satisfying. It's a damn good film. It's a really good film, and you are going to walk out of the theater because of that last entire... Again, it's not just a scene. Like, Captain America Civil War had the airport scene, right, Rob? And that, to me, is like one of the greatest scenes in comic book movie history. But that's a scene. It's a long scene, but it's a scene.
Yeah.
This is the entire third act of the film. Like, the entire last hour. Not just a scene, but the entire hour is just enough that's going to have you emotional and excited and screaming and crying and laughing and cheering and jumping up and down. Do I give the overall package an A+? No, probably not as an overall package. But the overall package is damn good, damn satisfying. And that last hour is going to have you walking out of the theater, as we say, Ghibli. You're just going to be like shaking. It's like, I have got to go back in and watch that again. And I do think that. So would I give it an A+? No. But do I give it a very solid recommendation? Absolutely. And again, the greatest hour in comic book movie history, in my opinion. Some of you may disagree when you see it, and that's fine. But in my opinion, the greatest single hour in comic book movie history. Let's see. A. Kyle writes, going to watch Endgame in less than 10 hours here in Australia. Super excited. Be excited. Kyle, man, be excited. Again, and if you're like me and you're watching the first act or two and thinking, okay, this isn't grabbing me by the throat yet, just hang on. Just wait. Because there is payoff. Trust me on that. All right, Damian Dornford writes, it's hopefully not Endgame for the Leafs tonight. Oh my God. Look, I picked the Leafs to win this series. They're going to Game 7 tonight against the Bruins. I am not happy. I am not happy in the least. I said the Leafs would not win the Stanley Cup this year, but this was their year to take a big step forward, and getting past the Bruins in the first round has to be that, oh my God, I am not going to be happy today if the Leafs lose. Hopefully it is not Endgame for them tonight. All right, Murray Reich writes, when I saw your reaction, I was like, somebody hacked into John's social media account. I know, look, it's seriously, it is crazy. I write Rob in my social media, first 2 hours, pros and cons, last hour, a magnificent geek's wet dream, best hour in any movie this year, and people are, but we've seen that all the time, right? We see that happen all the time. Like on your site, on my site, I mean, but it is what it is. Okay, let's see. Murray follows up with, this just in, Robert Kraft has renamed his team the New England Pay-for-Tits. Leave poor Robert Kraft alone. That is funny, though. That's funny. James Argento writes, I got a bad feeling that a small percentage of fans will react as bad or worse to A4 as The Last Jedi. I hope I'm wrong. I really don't think so. Now, granted, fully admit here, I really thought, even though I had some problems with Last Jedi, I really thought the vast majority of people would really, really enjoy it. And
I did too, by the way.
yeah, and while I think the majority of people enjoyed it, it was also clearly a divisive film. I mean, clearly, it's undisputed. It's a divisive film. And I really thought, despite my reservations, I thought, like you, Rob, it was going to be quite widely well received. So take that. I really don't think that's going to happen with Avengers Endgame. I don't know that everybody will love it as much as the critics coming out of the world premiere did. But I really do. I cannot emphasize enough that the last hour of this film is what being a movie fan is all about. And I really think everybody's going to walk out satisfied. I really do. So is it going to be for everybody? No movie's for everybody. But I think, like I said, as we're getting halfway through the second act, I'm going to slowly start nudging away from Robert this afternoon. Because I just don't know. But yeah, Rob.
I'm wearing Depends. It's cool.
So you're all good. But honestly,
I've got adult diapers.
I don't see that. No, I don't see that divisiveness that was in The Last Jedi happening to it. I don't see that at all. I really don't. So, but then again, like I said, I didn't see it coming for The Last Jedi either. So,
okay, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Are there post-credit sequences in this?
I'll say this because it's not a spoiler. We did not see any post-credit scenes last night.
Wow.
But last night, you know how there's part 1 and part 2 of credits in a Marvel movie. The part 1 is with big animations like starring Mark Ruffalo and a silhouette of the Hulk, starring Sebastian Stan, and starring, whoever else. And then there's the credits, right?
Yeah.
They stopped the film after the main credits part going through the cast. Then they stopped the film. And now traditionally at these premieres, what they do is they bring out the cast and crew of the film to introduce the film, and everybody waves, takes pictures, and then they watch the movie. They did this a little bit differently. The premiere started with High Lord and Emperor Bob Iger, and everybody got up out of the chairs and then took a knee.
Yeah, you sent me a selfie.
Yeah, wasn't that great? So the premiere started with Bob Iger coming out on stage and introducing the film. Nobody else did, and then they started the movie. Then what they did is once we got about a minute into the credits, they stopped the roll and then brought out all the cast and crew to give their thank yous and speeches. So there may very well be post-credit scenes, but they didn't show them to us last night.
Wow, so we might see something new today.
So we may see something that I did not see last night tonight.
Wow.
So here's fingers crossed, fingers crossed. All right, let's see. Willow Yang writes, whose character arc / development on Game of Thrones was your favorite? For me, it's a toss-up between Jaime and Sansa. Rob, I'm telling you what, we were talking about on our Game of Thrones post show. these two have had remarkable character journeys. Like when you look at where Sansa was season 1 and where she is now, it's incredible. Tyrion, obviously a great character journey, but I think the overall character arcs of Jaime and Sansa may be the best two that we've had. What do you think?
Oh, I agree. I think last week's episode when she looks Daenerys right in the eye and says, "What about the North?" I was like, that's so baller. I mean, that was so baller. I'm like that. I love Sansa Stark. I love where her character's gone. She's been through hell. She deserves a win. But when she stood up to her, I was like, oh, yeah.
Well, and then
she's going to sit on the Iron Throne.
In episode 1, when they bring in Jaime, or sorry, it was episode 2, the beginning of episode 2, they bring in Jaime. They're in court. You got Jon, Dany, and Sansa sitting at the front there. And then, Dany's like, I've wanted to kill the person who killed my father, blah, 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 blah. And then Sansa, no consulting, all right, we'll let you stay. And then the look on Dany's face, like,
right.
I'm queen.
That's why
queen.
she's going to die,
God, Sansa's turned into a badass. I want to see a court ruled by Sansa Stark and Lady Mormont. I want to see that. I want to see that movie. Okay.
Yeah, you know what? Then watch everybody bitch and moan about, the women won. Yeah, because they deserve to win.
All right, let's move on here. 355th Mike writes, Scarlet, Bree, and Anne all had the same gauntlet jewelry, Mr. Campea. Have you been hiding a secret friendship from us? You know what? Now that you bring that up, let me indulge me for a moment here while I bring this up, because I think this is damn awesome. So Anne, for those of you who did not see this picture, I posted this on my social media last night. Let me see if I can grab it here. There it is. Anne was sporting this amazing hand jewelry. I know you can't see where you're sitting, Rob, but
I saw it. I saw the picture.
That's kind of a play on the Infinity Gauntlet. And then what happened? Let me see if I can find this one too. Hold a second. Then, as we were at the party last night, Anne started to realize, hey, wait a minute. These guys are all wearing the same thing as me. So then Anne today posted this picture showing off that exact same thing that you were mentioning. There's Scarlett Johansson wearing her gauntlet play on rings into a bracelet, Anne wearing hers, and Brie Larson wearing hers. Now, obviously, Anne is the hottest of all of them. I think Anne also has the greatest dress. Of course, I'm believing that Anne is watching this and hearing me say it, and I'm gaining great points as we were talking about it. But for those who don't know, that's my wife, Anne, in the middle there. And yeah, you're right. All three of them were sporting that sort of thing, and I thought it was a great look. So anyway, I was going to say something that I would probably regret later.
Scarlett Johansson said that Colin Jost, her boyfriend, had it made for her.
Really?
Yeah.
Talking about scoring points.
Yeah.
Talking about, dudes, if you want like some nerd inspiration, look at the dude Scarlett Johansson's with right now. If you want a little bit of like little nerdy guy inspiration, that's your inspiration right there, my friend.
Yeah, but he is the head writer for SNL.
Yeah, no,
So
true.
that's
Yeah,
not
no,
bad.
yeah, absolutely. But
He's a handsome
again,
dude.
It's inspiration. Inspiration nonetheless. All right. Ryan Lohner writes, John, on the first 2 hours, not enough people named Martha. They needed more Martha, damn it. Mike Holtackers writes, seeing Endgame in 7 hours, dude, enjoy yourself, have a good time. Seal the Deal writes, John, I appreciate your honest thoughts on Endgame. I still can't wait to see it, but here comes the fans crying, you thought Endgame was bad, LOL. Oh, I know. Unless you, again, we live in everything's 10 out of 10 or 0 out of 0. There is nothing in between. And if you say something isn't the absolute epitome of perfection, that means you didn't like it. It's just part of the film fandom today, and it's something that we just got to learn to live with. Mike Holtackers also writes, how big of a super chat do you need to say? Oh, I'm not going to say that, Mike. Fine, I'll say it. How big of a super chat do you need to say The Phantom Menace is the best Star Wars film ever? Because, well, apparently 5 euros. You got me, Mike. You got me. And I'd rather say that than Attack of the Clones. Chan Darsakara writes, on what criteria does a studio invite reviewers for a movie premiere? Because not all are invited. Also, 99.99% of reactions of Endgame were positive. Yes, they were. It's always usually the same group. There's the big major group that has a certain following, that has a certain reputation, whatever. It's usually the same group of people that get invited. It's not like, oh, this guy likes these movies, so we'll invite him. But this guy likes these movies, so we'll invite them. No, we're invited to pretty much all of them. Like, look, a lot of us who went to the A Wrinkle in Time premiere, we did not like that movie. That wasn't a good movie. But it didn't stop them from inviting us back to other premieres, So it's usually the same group of people, and it's usually based on, do you have a following, do you have a reputation, do you have all that kind of stuff, and then you get on the list. And, also then there's this, do you have social media following, all that kind of stuff? Can you be an influencer? Yada, 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 that sort of thing. Herc08 writes, John, I know you read the comments off your tweet. It's amazing where our fandom has come. For some reason, your tweet was biased since you enjoyed Batman versus Superman. It is crazy, Rob, because this is the crazy thing. One of the things that you and I both face quite often is, you're on Disney's payroll. Disney pays you off. You're a bot guy and blah, blah, blah. You're so pro Marvel. Everything's Marvel. The moment I come out of Endgame and don't say it's the most perfect thing ever, it's great, but it's not. All of a sudden is, you're a Marvel hater. You hate Marvel. You're on DC's payroll. It's like, oh my God, it is.
By the way, and you and I, we always say we're totally open to be on anyone's payroll.
If Marvel wants to cut me that
please make
check.
me a paid shill. I am willing. Whatever you want to do, I will do it for you. Just send me a little cheddar every month, and I'll say what you want me to say.
It's going to take more than a little, but if you want to cut me that $10,000 check to say that I like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., suddenly, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to me, greatest triumph in television history for the low price of maybe $15,000. I really don't like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. All right, let's move on here. Murray Reich writes, can't wait to see what happens with Jack and the Winchesters in this week's season finale. Oh, God. I think they have built this up great. I am so excited for the season finale. A little heartbreaking knowing it'll be the second last season finale I ever get out of Supernatural. But you're right. They've built up this season great. I cannot wait to see what happens in this final episode. Raven writes, how much to tell Mike I strongly disagree? Was there a Mike? Oh, because Mike was the one who sent in, how much of a super chat to say that Phantom Menace is the greatest thing ever? Murray, can't wait to, then Raven, how much to tell Mike I strongly disagree? $2. Well played, sir. Herc08. It's obvious this did not blow you out of the water, and that's okay. But I am curious to know if one of the 4 things you said could be a disappointment actually happened in the movie. Oh, that's right. Remember, Rob, we did that thing where I said, okay, if this movie's a disappointment, it will be because of one of these 4 things, right? Was one of those things at play? I'll say this. There are elements of one of those things do come into play. I'm not going to say which one. I'm not going to say to what degree, and I'm not going to say how. I will say one of the elements does come into play. So, yeah. Again, I can't go into detail. I can't explain what I mean. Because even just the regular review embargo isn't up yet, so I can't even do that.
See, I would say that I have been. There's one spoiler I saw from this movie, and it was a pretty big spoiler. And I have to say, I wish I didn't know it, but I don't know the context, and I don't know where it's coming from. But I know that because I wanted to see it, it was something I really wanted to happen, and it was spoiled for me. My anticipation has only grown because I want to know, how did this happen? And it was something I so wanted to happen, and it does, and I'm very excited.
Well, when we're off air, I'll get you to tell me what that one thing was.
No, because I don't want to know.
Oh, okay.
I don't want to know. I want to see it. I want to see it.
Fair enough.
Because it's so big, it's so huge that I don't want to know.
All right. Let's move on here. We got a bunch more to get through here. Edgar Navarro writes, got my collector's edition of Mortal Kombat 11 last night. Nice. And it's so badass. I got a 1-to-1 scale of Scorpion's mask. Cool. And if you're watching, stay strong, Dashi. Of course, one of our viewers, Dashi, revealed has come down. One of the longtime viewers of our show, Dashi, has come down with leukemia and shared that with us all the other day. And absolutely best thoughts out to our fellow film fan, Dashi. I've been intrigued. I haven't been intrigued by a Mortal Kombat game for a very long time. And then they dropped that trailer at the Video Game Awards, and I saw them like, okay, I might have to get myself back into Mortal Kombat at this point. Not totally sure, but I mean, have you seen the footage from that game?
Yeah.
It looks pretty badass, right?
I was never a big Mortal Kombat game fan because the fighting games were never my thing, but it looks pretty great.
It does look pretty great. All right. Mista47 writes, Gwyneth Paltrow dropped a major spoiler last night. I know what you're talking about. I don't think it was a major spoiler. I won't say what it was, just in case you didn't see the stream. But Rob, you saw the stream. you know what she said.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I heard her say it before the movie. Did it really spoil anything for me? No, not really. Not really. I won't repeat it.
Yeah,
but I didn't think that was a big spoiler at all.
It's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, not a big spoiler. Because really, it was just really reflective of something Robert Downey Jr. had already said in previous interviews, right?
Yeah.
Again, we won't go into the details, but I honestly didn't think it was that big. Let's see. Aqua Mexican Carlo writes, saw Hellboy and actually liked it. My favorite one. Now, I didn't like Hellboy, but I didn't think it was the mess everybody made it out to be. And I thought there were definitely good elements about it that I can see somebody going in and liking it and having a good time with it. I certainly think David Harbour is a fabulous Hellboy. And I thought the look of Hellboy was even better than the Ron Perlman look. But didn't quite work for me, but I can totally see it working for other people. So I'm glad you had a good time, Aqua Mexican. All right. Sorry, guys, my throat's starting to go a little bit here. Carlos Herrera writes, Mission Report, April 22nd, 2019. How was the while bathroom and break issue, if any? So was there a bathroom break? My mission report was I drank my last liquid at 3 p.m., used the bathroom just before 6 p.m., which is when the movie was supposed to start, and I was able to make it through the entire movie. So that may not work for you, but it certainly worked for me. Now that I've seen the movie, I have no problem running out and using the bathroom, so I'm going to drink to my heart's content when I go to see the movie again this afternoon. But yeah, my mission report was a success. All right. Joe Byram writes, Ray and Jonathan have been blocking spoilers. How badly has the movie been spoiled for them? Thank you, Ray and Jonathan. Yeah, I don't know. I remember I had to have this conversation with Ray. It's like, hey guys, I'm going to need you to be really monitoring the chat board, look for spoilers and remove them. And Ray's like, but I don't want to be spoiled. I'm like, dude, I know it sucks, but it's your job. Sorry, man. I feel bad about that, which I feel a little bit less bad because I bought Ray his tickets for Endgame on Thursday night. So I feel a little bit less bad in there. But yeah, I felt bad for both of them on that front. But we had to protect our viewers. That was more important. We had to protect our viewers. All right. Denmar95 writes, 310 people lost their lives in Sri Lanka. I can't believe this is the world we live in. Now more than ever, we need true heroes. I mean, yes. We don't go into world events here on the John Campea Show. But that was, when I saw the news yesterday, it was heartbreaking. Absolutely heartbreaking to see that going on. And it's such a foreign element, like, because it's a world that I don't know. I don't know that world. I'm not out there. But you hear about hundreds of people dying and stuff like that. It is truly tragic, and all of us here extend our thoughts and well wishes to everybody involved out there. And Rob, you heard about that, right?
It's the most cowardly, horrific, soft target attack. I mean, churches and hotels worshipers. I mean, it just goes to show how cowardly ISIS, they're taking responsibility for it now, really is.
Yeah, it truly is, and it's really sad to see. All right, thanks for putting that in there, Denmar. All right. We go on now to Toonie Tube, who writes, again, it looks like the real badass in Godzilla is the U.S. Army. Waiting for the sequel, Sam Jackson versus U.S. Army after the lame ape battle versus the rubber frog. I don't know about that. I mean, the Sam Jackson versus Kong was kind of bad, but versus the rubber frog, I don't know. I like the King Kong battles. But it is true, though, Robert. Like in movies like this, one giant monster fighting another giant monster is not something you can make an entire movie out of. You have to have more, and we have to be, the human race can't just be observers. We can't, the human race can't just be the ones sitting back and just watching it. There has to be a human element to it, I think. Do you go as far as Sam Jackson versus King Kong? Maybe you don't go that far, but I think there's a point.
Coach Taylor going against Ghidorah.
Yeah, Coach Taylor going against Ghidorah. But I don't know. So I'm totally fine. You know, when you see Coach Taylor again saying, this time we join the fight.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, we should. It's our future. We should be involved in that fight. Like, did that rub you the wrong way?
I loved it.
So it does work for you.
I mean, yeah. I mean, we got, look, Godzilla movies, as a kid, I just want to watch the monster foo. I just want to watch the fighting. But, yeah, you need the human element. All Godzilla movies have some kind of a human element there. And clearly, this movie has a star-studded cast. It's got some great actors in it. And it's got Millie Bobby Brown making her screen debut in a feature film like this.
Yeah.
And I think the human characters are going to be really important to this story.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that. All right, let's see here. Benjamin Lohman writes, most want a comeback. Adam Sandler, Michael Myers, Brendan Fraser. Oh, we as human beings, we love comeback stories. We love comebacks, even when it's jerks who screw themselves over. We kind of love a good redemption and comeback story. Like Mike Myers doesn't need a redemption. He was kind of put himself into self-imposed exile after The Love Guru, which is really too bad. But the world needs Mike Myers. But yeah, Brendan Fraser, great seeing him back on Doom Patrol. I love that show. I would love to see Adam Sandler do something with this train wreck he's called his career the last couple of years. But hey, he's making much more money than I am, so who am I to criticize? All right, Wave Wonder 1 writes, does it at least work as a solid conclusion to the MCU? I believe so. I think the entire last hour is incredibly satisfying. So yes, it's an incredibly satisfying movie. Noel Nguyen writes, thoughts on videos on essayists on YouTube. Nando V Movies plus others made a series called One Marvelous Scene where they break down their favorite MCU scenes. Thought I'd inform the movie fan public. Look, there's a number of really good ones of those out there. Mm-hmm. I don't particularly watch them a lot because it's just a matter of hearing one guy just really explain his opinion on one particular topic. And I like hearing that, but I don't know if I like sitting down for entire essays of it. But there's a lot of people who do, and there's some very, very skilled ones out there. I'm not familiar with this one in particular, Noel. Rob, I know you like watching
I do. My favorite one is somebody did one on David Fincher's movies and his cinematography and how the way his camera moves. And it was something I'd never noticed before, but after watching that video, it was one of the most insightful videos I've ever seen. So sometimes people really knock it out of the park with those things. Yeah,
there's actually a screenwriter who did a big one on why we say film is subjective, and it's brilliant. The screenwriter just broke it all down. It was really, really good, and I do every once in a while I do love stuff like that. All right, Sebastian and Rikia writes, fun nerdy story. I had a character in my Dungeons and Dragons campaign make an epic entrance a la Thor, and I played the Avengers theme as it happened. Everybody cheered. It's always great when you can have a role-playing game and you can involve multimedia elements. I gotta tell you guys this, my little geek story. I just bought a new TV recently. Now, the TV that was my main TV was a 65-inch TV. Then I got this 75-inch one that's above the fireplace now. Love it. But I've been wondering, what do I do with this big 65-inch TV? And a buddy of mine, who's a Hollywood production set designer, was over, because he's also in my D&D group. And he was over and he's like, dude, how about I design a table around it and we build a table out of your 65-inch TV in the center, and we can use it for games. You can have all multimedia and video and images come up and maps on the TV that is your table. I'm like, can you do that? He sat down and I can't remember what the name of the program is where designers build things, but he CAD, I think it's called, something like that. Anyway, and he, in about a half hour, designed this gorgeous, beautiful table that they are now going to be constructing, and with the centerpiece of it being the 65-inch TV right in the middle with glass over top of it. It's gonna be awesome. I cannot wait. And that's the nerdy part of me playing that. But whenever you can introduce music and stuff like that into your role-playing games, it's always a lot of fun. But I cannot wait to get this table made, man. I'm so excited. Okay. AG Systems 120 writes, is Endgame the new Jupiter Ascending? That movie's horrible. No, Endgame is not in any way, shape, or form the new Jupiter Ascending.
Man, I got a lot of great big love for Jupiter Ascending myself. Yes, I do.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you what.
It's a great Disney princess movie.
Me, Dennis Zen, and John Schnepp did the most infamous doubleheader ever. We went to the AMC Burbank 16 and we watched Seventh Son, followed immediately by Jupiter Ascending. I thought Jupiter Ascending made Seventh Son look like an Academy-nominated film. I thought Jupiter Ascending... Now, we're talking about the same one, right? With Channing Tatum.
Oh, yeah. Mila Kunis, directed by the Wachowskis. Sean Bean's in it. Oscar-winning actors.
All film is subjective. All film is subjective. That's a great example of it. All right. Stubborn McShave writes, is there a risk with streaming media that they'll edit it after I buy it? Example, if streaming was available in the 90s, could Star Wars be edited to special editions without my say-so? Could it? Yeah. But really, how many times in Hollywood history has that actually happened? How many times has a George Lucas taken his films and did a fundamental edit on it to change the movie? 1 out of every 10,000? So could that happen? Yeah. But it happened with physical media too. Would it be a little bit easier for them to do that with streaming media? Yeah. Would it become an epidemic? Would it become commonplace? No, I don't think that at all. Rob, what do you think?
No, I don't think it's going to become commonplace. I mean, it's not something that I think we really have to worry about. I mean, it's hard enough getting studios to put things out on pre-recorded media. I mean, I still want the original War of the Worlds. I can get it streaming, but no one's ever going to touch that.
Can't get it on physical, yeah. No. All right, time for just a couple more questions, guys, and we got to wrap it up. This one comes to us from Pretty Good, who writes, I have an IMAX Endgame ticket for Thursday morning, which is only 4 days before the due date of my son, praying my wife holds on whatever it takes. Dude, I salute you, but by all means, whatever you need to do to get the vibrate on your phone to maximum vibrate to make sure you don't miss anything. It's a movie. It's a damn good movie, but it's a movie. That's not a call you want to miss, my friend.
Don't ever miss the birth of your child.
No, that's when there's no coming back from that.
No.
There's no coming back from that, not at all. But I salute your commitment to the Endgame adventure, my friend. All right. Media Fanatic writes, people saying you dislike Endgame, so frustrating. It is. Look, I'm used to it by now. There's so many movies that, I really like this movie, 7 out of 10. Campea hated it. What? But hey, it is what it is. I'm used to it by now. Jose Garcia writes, I love how guys can't fathom the thought that someone could have disliked parts of Avengers Endgame film. Film is subjective, and that's why I love John's show, because I can hear others' thoughts on films that liked and disliked. Well, I'm glad you have that point of view, Jose. I really appreciate that, and that is a healthier way of looking at film and film discussion and film talking, and it is what it is. Look, even my favorite films in the world have issues. I mean, every film has issues, and I have got some issues with Endgame. It is still what it is, but I had a couple of issues with it. Nothing Here writes, John, if you're going to do an Avengers spoiler talk, you wait a week. Oh, can you wait a week after the release? Because it's impossible to get tickets on the first week. Unfortunately, I can't. Like, I have this is the reason I didn't do a Shazam spoiler discussion, is because after a certain amount of time, it's just not worth doing. So I am doing it on Sunday. Rob and I are going to be doing this review on Sunday afternoon at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That gives you, for our international friends, that gives you today, Wednesday, and on. For those of you watching domestically, that gives you Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and depending on your time zone, it gives you Sunday morning as well. To make sure you watch the movie, and that's when we'll do our big discussion. Unfortunately, no, I can't put it off any longer than that. So, but hey, then feel free to come by and watch it after we do it. Rob and I, you and I were talking just about this. Like, we know this is gonna be a long day.
A long day.
Yeah, maybe like 5+ hours.
Yeah, because it's not just we won't have just seen it. A lot of people are going to see it. Everyone's going to see it, and they're going to have a lot to say.
A lot to say. Okay, last couple of ones, and we're going to wrap it up. Kyle Gent writes, hey, John, love the show. Can't wait to see Endgame. I'm glad. I can't wait for you to see it, too. Pool of Dead writes, can you rank Shazam, Endgame, and Captain Marvel? No, I'm not ready to do that yet. I do know that I like Shazam more than Captain Marvel, and I really like Captain Marvel, but I like Shazam a little bit more. I'm not ready to rank Endgame in there just yet, because I gotta see it again and let it gestate. Remember, I just saw it like 12 hours ago, so I need to gestate on just a little bit more. Sean Schaefer writes, over under 70% on Rotten Tomatoes for Endgame. Oh, over. I think it's going to be closer to 90. I think it's going to be hovering around the 90% mark on Rotten Tomatoes from what I saw last night at any rate. Robert Perez writes, love Anne's Infinity Bracelet last night. I loved Anne's entire look from last night. But you're right. I love that Infinity Bracelet. I thought that was just a great thing that she put on there. Terrell Wise writes, is Endgame in your top 10 MCU films? Top 10 MCU films? Yes. Yeah, I can pretty safely say Endgame's in my top 10 MCU films. In my top 10 overall comic book films, maybe not. But yeah, I'd say it's in my top 10 MCU films. Hamza Hussein writes, are there post-credit scenes in Endgame? Are they good? We already kind of covered that a little bit earlier. And the last question I'll take today, it comes to us from C.E. Nelson, who writes, no, guys, look, I'm not here to talk about other people and whatever. We're not here to bash on anybody. So I appreciate you sending in the super chat, CE. I do, but We're not here to bash on anybody else. We're not here to talk negative about anybody else. We're not here to do any of that. So I appreciate it very much, but we're not here to talk negatively about people. All right, now this will be the last one then. And CE kind of falls out again. I can't really address that CE, but I deeply appreciate that and all that kind of stuff. But if you guys know me, I'm not here to let anybody talk negatively about anybody else. That's not what I'm here to do. So there's that.
Unless we talk negatively about each other.
And yeah, unless I talk about the jackass sitting over there.
Yeah.
Anyway, besides that, we can do that all day.
Yeah.
Guys, that will do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here. Of course, Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett is here in the house, everybody. Robert, where can people find you online?
Well, I'm being pretty Ghibli now, but you can find me on Twitter at BurnettRM, find me on Instagram at RMBurnett, or find me on my own YouTube channel, The Burnettwork, and its adjacent website, theburnettwork.net.
And of course, you guys can follow me on my social media, simply at John Campea. That will do it for us for now, guys. Thank you so much for being here. And by the way, guys, for everybody who didn't have their questions answered because there were a few we didn't get around to, Aqua Mexican, Ryan Loner, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and all the way down, all you guys, don't worry. After Endgame later tonight, I will be doing a companion video to get caught up on all those questions. Every question you sent in will get answered in a video later today. Keep your eyes open for that, and thank you for sending those in. That'll do it for us for now, guys. The next time you see me and Rob, we will both see Avengers Endgame. I'm John Campea, and until next time, bye-bye.